Thank you very much for your question, Andy. I would like to use your question to talk about a particular type of mistake that people who are preparing for IELTS might notice in their own test materials and show how, if you make this kind of mistake, you can increase the number of correct answers in gap filling, specifically gap filling tasks in listening and reading. For that, I'm going to show you one of my pre-intermediate IELTS students' home assignment, and I'd like you to see if you make the same mistakes in sample tests. So this is what she sent to me, and these are the answers for the first 10 questions in the listening part. Now, she self-checked, and she was a little bit too optimistic. In fact, there are only 4 questions that she got right, but I'd like to focus on a couple of questions here. So, on the right, we see the task itself. I've taken it from official sample Cambridge tests 16, the latest one, as of this recording. So I'd like you to focus on question 5. Now, 1 here is an incorrect answer and marked as such, and the correct answer is bridge. Let's have a look at the sentence with this gap. Let's see if her answer fits into the gap in any way. So according to the original answer, looks like one of the activities that junior engineers in the children's engineering workshop do is they take part in a competition to build the longest one using card and wood. See how it doesn't make sense? Keep it in mind. We're going to need it in a minute. Of course, the correct answer is bridge, and we'll see what it can mean for us. Another question is 10, and again, if we try to fill in the gap with the word that she originally wrote, it again doesn't make sense. So at the location, it seems there is plenty of always is available. Of course, I don't blame her for not hearing some words in the fluent speech, but if you find yourself making this kind of mistake, I might have a recipe to help you if you stay tuned. So that's why, by the way, it is important to check your answers, not just with the answer list, but really see what kinds of mistakes and analyze. If you don't have a tutor and you are preparing yourself, it's important to know what kind of mistakes you make in order to focus on it, not just see how many out of 40 you've got right. So this type of mistake really reminds me of Alice in Wonderland. Remember when she was lost and she came across this caterpillar and asked the caterpillar, well, where should I go? Can you tell me where I should go? The caterpillar said, where would you like to arrive? And Alice said, well, I don't care, somewhere. The caterpillar said, well, then it doesn't matter where you go. And this leads me to the mistaken thinking that a lot of students make that leads them to low scores in this type of task, which is gap filling. You always should ask yourself a question in order to hear the answer. Let me say it again. Without a question, there is no way you're going to hear an answer. And it works on every level of English and in any gap filling task. What I mean is, if my student had asked herself a question in the time before she started listening, there would be no way she would write 1 in the 5th gap and always in the 10th gap. Let's check it, shall we? So the question that you ask yourself to fill in gap 5 would be something like, what do junior engineers build using cardboard and wood? If you have this kind of question, you're not going to write 1 there, right? Because it just doesn't make sense. And if you have a question for 10 that sounds like, what is there available at the location? What is available at the location? You're not going to write always, are you? Because it just doesn't answer the question. So that's my tip. If you struggle with gap filling tasks, and I'm talking about this kind of mistake, not spelling, I'm talking about where you see that you write answers that absolutely don't fit the gap, like my student did. What you do is you allocate enough time to write questions for every gap before you even start listening. You have to deeply analyze what is given to you. In order to get prepared for listening. So that's one type of mistake. Let me show you a different one. I'm going to choose a different color here. Now, number 6 is also incorrect, I'm afraid, although she was pretty close to the answer. So another type of activity that junior engineers do is they create a short something with special software. Well, what kind of question can you ask? What do junior engineers create with special software, right? And on the surface, animation sort of fits, especially if you look at the script. Let me show you the script. Think up an idea for a 5-minute movie and then film it using special animation software. You might think, well, they mention animation, right? So why is animation an incorrect answer? The answer to that question is you have to analyze the gap not only from the standpoint of the meaning, but also the grammar, because grammar, because the creators of the paper really put in little clues for you. So if you know what to look for, it might help with the process of elimination of an incorrect answer. So create a short something with special software. See this little A? That's elementary English, right? If there is an A, it's obvious that the gap is going to be filled with a word which is countable, which is a noun, which is countable, which is singular. So while you are asking yourself questions, while you're analyzing the gaps before listening, you might want to make a note of that. What do I expect to see in this gap? Well, it's going to be a noun. It's going to be countable. It's going to be singular. And it might be something like, I don't know, a program. Create a short program. I don't know, can programs be short? Create a short song, let's say. Maybe song, maybe film, something like that. Now, animation in English is not countable. That's why it's not going to fit. And you're going to remember about it when choosing between a movie and animation, that both were mentioned. Of course, movie is going to be the correct answer. Now, here's another example of the same type of mistake. See, my student here wrote decorated in the 7th gap. Unfortunately, despite her optimism, it's wrong. Let's see why. If you analyze the gap from the grammar point of view, it becomes clear that what we need here is a verb which is in its base form or first form, as it's sometimes called. So What do junior engineers do with a humanoid robot apart from build and program it? That's my question. And analyzing the gap, it's clear for me that it's going to be a verb base form. Now, even though in the script, they say that engineers decorated and program it so that it can move its arms and legs, even though you might hear decorated, there is no way you're going to write decorated instead of decorate, because you know that you're going to need the base form, decorate. Otherwise, it just doesn't fit the gap, does it? So I'd like to share with you the 4 questions for self-checking. If you have time, as you should, at the end of the listening task or reading task, you always have to allocate several minutes to that. You should ask yourself 4 questions. You should check each of your answers and see if it fits the self-check list. Self-check list. Let's go. So the first thing you do is you check the spelling, right? It's especially important for listening because you don't see the word written, but people make spelling mistakes even when they copy answers from the text. That happens. So check spelling. Is my spelling correct? 2. Does it make sense? Does my sentence make sense? Or does it say there's plenty of always? Number 3, does it make sense grammatically? Is it grammatical? Right? So if my student asked herself, does decorated fit into gap 7 grammatically? She would see that it doesn't. And the correct answer should be decorate. And lastly, whether it fits the word limit. I'm not touching word limit here because in this particular task, you're only given 1 word and or a number limit, but you always have to remember about it. So every time I share this checklist, and that's my favorite checklist, I can't stop talking about it. You should remember that word limit is also very important. So again, this is how you hopefully increase the number of correct answers in your gap filling tasks in listening and reading, especially if you don't have a tutor, especially if you are preparing yourself. But even if you have a tutor, make sure that the tutor knows the kinds of mistakes you make. So the tutor knows that this is a problematic area for you. This is what you both have to focus on, and that you're not wasting time on working on spelling if what you need is in fact grammar. That's it. Everything I wanted to say. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.